what makes sense of life for you? Or perhaps I should ask, how do you make sense of life? What helps you on a daily basis to keep your life in proper perspective? How do you find and define meaning in your life? Is it your occupation? You know, it is for many Americans. And this was, I think, more true a generation or so ago than it is today. But the men, especially in the past, especially my grandfather's generation, really defined their life by their occupation. Many of them did not live long past retirement. And I had read somewhere in a psychological journal, and I think there's some truth to this, that one of the reasons they died was probably because they had no more meaning in life, because they found meaning in their occupation, and once they quit working, they no longer felt useful. They didn't feel like they were contributing to society anymore. Their life was their work. And if they no longer worked, they no longer had purpose. Perhaps occupation is not the best way to define yourself. So how do you find and define meaning in your life? Is it through your social circles? The people that you associate with? The people whom we surround ourselves with says a lot about who we are. Do you only hang out with like-minded people? And if so, why? Is it because you're uncomfortable with new or competing ideas? Are you nervous around those who might look at the world in a different way than you do? How do you find and define meaning in your life? What helps you keep life in proper perspective on an ongoing daily basis? Do you find family relationships define who you are? You're a mother or a father or a grandparent. You're a son or a daughter or a brother or sister. Is that the way that you make sense of your life? Do you understand life primarily through the lens of being related to a particular person? And if you make sense of your life by your occupation or your social circles or your family relationships, what happens when the job is gone? Or the social circles break up? Or family members die or move away? 2,000 years ago, in a little corner of the Roman Empire, a Jewish rabbi made the headlines by challenging both government and the religion of his birth. Now, even a cursory reading of our Gospels makes the precise point that Jesus is pointing at the Roman Empire and saying, in effect, you don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to do that anymore. Pointing out the flaws built into any empire will make you unpopular. Even if you're a high school student calling attention to school shootings in the United States, somebody will mock your efforts. There will be those who seemingly cannot tolerate allowing you freedom of speech because you're too young to understand or because your solution doesn't agree with their answers. Pointing out the flaws in any empire will make you unpopular. But in the Roman Empire in the first century, It could get you killed. At one point in the life of Jesus, things looked so nefarious that some of the Pharisees came to Jesus and said, "Get away from here because Herod is trying to kill you." And Jesus replied, "Go and tell that fox for me. Listen, I am casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow, and on the third day I finish my work. Yet today, tomorrow, and the next day I must be on my way, because it is impossible for a prophet to be killed away from Jerusalem." This Jewish rabbi was critical of the empire, but he was also critical of his own Jewish religion. He frequently told the people, "You have heard it said." And then he would quote something out of the law of Moses. And then he would change things up a bit by saying, "But I say to you." Once he told his followers, "You have heard it said to those of ancient times, 'You shall not murder, and whosoever murders shall be liable to judgment.' But I say to you that if you're angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, 'You fool,' you will be liable to the hell of fire." Well, welcome to the week called Holy. Today, we draw attention to what is called Palm Sunday. It's a day when Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a colt, and the people were shouting, "Hosanna," which means "please save" or "save now." Listen carefully to the way Mark tells this story. When they were approaching Jerusalem at Bethphage and Bethany, near the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent two of his disciples and said to them, "Go into the village ahead of you, and immediately as you enter it, you will find tied there a colt that has never been ridden. Untie it and bring it. If anyone says to you, 'Why are you doing that?' just say this, 'The Lord needs it and will send it back here immediately.'" They went away and found a colt tied near a door outside in the street. As they were untying it, some of the bystanders said to them, what are you doing untying that colt?" And they told them what Jesus had said, and they allowed them to take it. When they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their cloaks on it, and he sat on it, many people spread their cloaks on the road, and others spread leafy branches that they had cut in the fields. Then those who went ahead and those who followed were shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our ancestor David. Hosanna in the highest heaven." Then he entered Jerusalem and went into the temple. And when he had looked around at everything, as it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. Now, by the time that this event takes place, Jesus already has the reputation of helping people find meaning in their lives. And that meaning wasn't found in their work. The purpose Jesus exposed wasn't found in their social settings. It wasn't even found in their family relations, as important as all of those things are. The meaning in life that Jesus helped people find came through a connectional lifestyle with the people of God and a connectional lifestyle with the very God of creation. Where do you find meaning in life? If you find meaning in Jesus and living out the teachings of love for God and love for all humanity and love for nature and all of the created order, then your occupation will find even more meaning for you. If you've discovered life as a purpose living for Jesus, then your social circles will add even more meaning to your lifestyle. If you have discovered life's highest calling, to be an active follower of Jesus, then your family relationships will take on whole new dimensions. And where do we find the strength to live such a high calling? Welcome to the week we call Holy. This is the week we remember where our true life has its genesis. A few months ago, we celebrated the incarnation of God coming into the world as a baby. We acknowledged the miracle of God with us. We were amazed that God would even consider entering our world. But this is Holy Week. This is where we remember what our sin is capable of creating. Our sin is capable of turning on someone who is one of us just because we don't see the solution the same way they do. This was what our sin did to Jesus. And this is the week that we are called by the church to remember our sin. For it is in remembering that we might see where and how our sin lives on. This is the week we recall the betrayal of Jesus by Judas. We acknowledge that our sin is also capable of betrayal. We are capable of betraying Jesus in our lifestyle. We are capable of betraying those sitting around us by the things we are willing to say about them. On Friday, we face the consequences of our sin. We acknowledge the reality of our participation in sin and how that causes pain, suffering, and even death. Then on Sunday morning, we will celebrate the solution to our sin. We celebrate the creative power of God to raise Jesus. We celebrate that sin does not have the last word. We find strength in our journey because we align our lives with the suffering, death, and resurrection of Jesus. Then, having experienced a renewal of our faith, we will journey for the next 50 days in the season of Easter. It's a time to remember who we are and where God, through Jesus, has brought us. The Easter season, which begins next week, lasts for 50 days, making it the longest Christian season. In fact, the Easter season continues through Ascension Sunday all the way to Pentecost Sunday. Pentecost Sunday. Pentecost is the birth of the community of Christian believers we call church. Holy Week and Easter season are powerful reminders of our need for God through Jesus. This is a season where we remember that God has given us strength. But at Pentecost, we are reminded that it is not enough to have a vibrant relationship with Jesus. We also need this community called the church to nurture, develop, reveal, and bring forth that strength. No woman or man can be self-sufficient. We need each other. We need each other. I remember years ago, and some of you will remember it, they may still use it for all I know, but one of the Coke commercials always said, things go better with Coke. And perhaps that's right. But this is something that I know for sure. Things always go better with the community Jesus founded. We are created by God to be in relationship with each other. The very opening of the Bible in the book of Genesis has these stories about Adam and Eve, and those stories are more about our need to be in relationship with others than they are about how God creates or created. We need each other. Now, don't misunderstand that saying. That doesn't mean you won't go through disappointments and heartache. That doesn't mean your family and friends will never let you down, or that you will always have an engaging occupation. It doesn't even mean that there won't be conflict in the church. But what it does mean is that you never have to face life's disappointments alone. Listen to this. You never have to face life's disappointments alone. We are created to be in relationship with a diversity of people who love us and love us enough to disagree with us on occasion and even challenge us. Real, deep, abiding love is not present until you can disagree with and challenge someone and stay in that relationship. And it is that real, deep, abiding love that is the glue to the people called church. This is what makes us different from the world that surrounds us. We accept anyone and everyone with the same love we have for our closest friends and family. Let me close by pointing out what that should mean for the church that was founded upon the teachings of this first century rabbi named Jesus. Look around you this morning. Really, turn around, look around you. I want you to look at who's sitting in front of you. Pay attention to who's sitting behind you. Look across the aisle and look at the people that are sitting on the other side of the aisle from you. Now let me ask you a question. Do you know what breaks their hearts? Do you know their passions, their disappointments? Do you know which ones are in crisis right now? And I honestly think that you are better at all of this than probably any church I've ever pastored. I'm serious. But let's challenge ourselves to go even beyond. And so let's ask ourselves, what have we done to ensure that no one in our midst are facing these disappointments alone? Welcome to the week called Holy. This is the week we observe Jesus' passion. This is the week that we remember the time empire and religion caught up with Jesus. This is the time we remember that when Jesus faced his most difficult time, most of his closest friends deserted him. This should be the time that we look around and we decide no one in our community will face life's disappointments alone. In the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Amen.